Hey, how are ya? Thanks for listening to Who Thought We'd Be Here. This week, JP and I have a very special guest episode for you to listen to. This week's guest is someone whose words I've been listening to over the course of my spiritual journey. He graciously accepted being a guest way back before we even had any momentum with this podcast. I reached out to him with hopes that one day we'd be able to set up this interview, and he said yes right away. This is a long time coming, and we're so excited to be able to share this conversation with you. Today's guest, John Kilmer, is a videographer, cinematographer, producer. He helps host the Y&K podcast with Mike, the musician formerly known as Mike Stud. He's written and produced the feature-length film, The Primrose, which is available on Prime. He's a man of many talents, and probably Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's biggest fan. We covered a range of topics, including his mental health, his background in podcasting, and some of his business and musical ventures he's been a part of. We hope that you get some insight from this interview, and we're excited to see the feedback. Please, as always, like, share, download, anything helps, and let us know what you think. Enjoy.
This episode of Who Thought We'd Be Here is brought to you by Joker Ink Apparel Decorating Company, your ultimate destination for screen printing, embroidery, and full-color digital printing. Whether it's bold apparel that makes heads turn or promotional swag that leaves a mark, we've got the expertise to make your vision come alive. And the best part, we handle orders from just one piece to a whopping 1 million. No project is too big or too small. With Joker Ink, your imagination is the limit. Our skilled team ensures every design pops with vibrancy, while our state-of-the-art technology guarantees precision and quality. Ready to make your brand unforgettable? Call us now at 845-863-3460 or visit jokerinc.com. That's JOKERINK.com. Joker Inc., where creativity meets limitless possibilities. Get noticed, get remembered. Contact Joker Inc. today at 845-863-3460 or visit www.jokerinc.com.
And when that don't work, I take a second to breathe, yeah. Breathe in, breathe out. Couple rain clouds ain't gon' get me down. I say, breathe in, breathe out. I'm getting back to me. All the things I do, all the things I say, all the times I took a chance, all of the mistakes I made, none of it matters. None of it matters at all. All the things I do, all the things I say, all the times I get knocked down, all the times I find a way, all of it matters.
Yeah, man. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, man, we really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for taking the time to do this.
Of course, man. No, of course. I'm glad we finally got together to do this.
Yeah, man. This in August when we started doing this, like, you were one of the reasons that we pushed through for a while, because like you had said yes right away, so can't just stop, you know.
That means a lot. I'm glad you guys are still doing it.
Yeah, man. It means a lot for us to have you on. We really do appreciate it.
No, happy to be here for real.
Yeah. All right, man. So, a little bit about us. Like, we are both just on like a mental health journey, like going through some changes. I just turned 30. JP's 31. So, life comes at you fast, man.
I know. Trust me, man. I know what that's like.
Yeah. So, we just wanted to talk to you about some stuff, mental health stuff, about your life, about your career, and how things are going with you. You want to start a little bit, like, with your background, like where you come from and stuff, man?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know how far back you want me to go, but
wherever you feel like starting.
Yeah, no, let's just start at the birth. Let's start at day one.
All right.
Love that. Hell yeah.
I'm a Northeast guy. I'm from Boston. I grew up in Boston, and I was there pretty much the first 18 years of my life. And after that, I just kind of dipped out and never lived there ever again. Obviously, I go back. My family's still there, very close with my family. They're great people. But as far as my journey and my interests, I fell in love with my passions at like a super young age. I was probably 14/15 years old, where I fell in love with kind of both music and film simultaneously. And I was super blessed to go to a school where they offered really good music programs, and they had like a video art program when this was like a gazillion years ago, when it was pretty uncommon to have video equipment, at students' disposal. Where these days, I mean, it's like I'm sure it's pretty common, but back then it was pretty uncommon to have like a video program, and it wasn't like an AV club. It was like a legit film class, more or less, at a high school. So I was super blessed to kind of fall in love with those things, and just picking up guitar at a young age and loving music. And from like 14, 15 years old, I knew exactly like I wanted to pursue a creative path. I didn't know like what. I mean, I think secretly I wanted to be like a rock star. I'd be like a lead guitarist for a rock band, which
Don't we all?
which
right?
kind of explains my behavior for the following 10 years. But I just knew I wanted to pursue a creative path. So I went to school. I ended up concentrating on film at college. I went to school in Long Island, New York, at Hofstra University. And I kind of, same thing, like I studied film, but I was kind of like the guy who had like the studio equipment in the dorm room. And again, this is like a long time ago, before studio equipment was like really popular to have a home studio. So it was kind of like the early stages of that. And went on to do the fraternity thing. had the recording studio in the fraternity basement. And again, I had like no clients at this point. I was just making music for the fun of it, making beats, just having a good time. And the thing that like really jump started it all, which like really, I would say like the one thing that like started steering my path, was working with this rapper who joined our fraternity and moved upstairs in the fraternity house. And his name is Chris Webby, and he's a rapper from Connecticut.
Oh shit! Yeah, we've heard.
Yeah,
of
yeah.
this.
Where are you guys from?
We're both from New York, Newburgh. It's like an hour.
Okay, so you're from the north. If you're from the
New York City.
northeast, I'm sure like you've heard of Chris Webby. He's been a rapper for like a super long time, and this is back in like 2008, 2009, and he had already been rapping for a while. So like he's had a very like long career, and he's still killing it today. But Chris was the first guy I ever worked with, and he lived right upstairs, and he recorded a lot of his like early mixtapes down in the basement, with me, and he was the first guy I ever worked with. And that was my junior year of college, and kind of like after that, he was like very popular on. This is the dated sentence.
Yeah, we were on like we found out about like a lot of music and stuff like that on like the blogs and stuff like that, and he was one of the
This
people
was
who came
even
up
this
on
was
that.
even like before the blog days. This was like MySpace was still a thing, and like DatPiff was really popular for mixtapes.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Webby was like slaying it on DatPiff, and he had a big following on MySpace. So that was kind of the start of my career, like in music for the most part. I wasn't really doing anything on the film end yet. I was studying it in school, but I wasn't really pursuing much. I was kind of more doing engineering and producing for other artists. And after Webby, that kind of gave me some notoriety to start working with other artists. And then by the time I graduated college, I kind of had a few artists under my belt that were notable enough where I could kind of go off on my own. And right from the jump, I moved to New York City and kind of took the leap and just worked for myself, just pursuing music and working with artists at any capacity I could, whether it was engineering, shooting music videos, producing beats. I was even like a hype man at one point. I posted
Hell yeah.
I posted a clip recently where I was on stage with one of my clients, a good friend of mine, Matt Clark, and he was a Boston artist. And we opened for Mac Miller, like R.I.P. But we opened for Mac Miller like
Oh, wow,
in like 2010, I want to say. It was super long time ago, and the Kids had just came out, and Mac was playing this like 500 person room in Boston, like this little shitty room. He hadn't really blown up yet, but he was pretty big on YouTube and all that. And yeah, we opened for Mac Miller in Boston. So looking back at that stuff, like really fond memories of those times, kind of starting out, and really blessed that I found a passion really early on in life, and I got to know exactly what I wanted to pursue early on. And also can't stress enough having a really supportive family that kind of like I'm kind of the black sheep in my family. Like no one's creative in my family. No one's pursuing a creative path. They're all doing finance and stock analysts and real estate, and nothing to do with what I'm doing. And I don't know if I would have made it in the beginning if I didn't have a family that like really had my back, even though like they didn't really understand what I was doing. They really supported it. So that was kind of the whole beginning journey for me. That's kind of how it all started.
Yeah. When you were younger, like before you started producing and stuff like that, was there anything specific, like influence-wise, that made you be like, I want to be creative, I want to do music, I want to film? Like, who were the people that like inspired you to be like, I can do this?
I mean, it's funny. The early I journal a lot. I've been journaling for like 7-8 years now, and when I reflect on like the early days, like the really early days when I'm like a teenage kid, the most like impressionable age, my idols were literally rock stars that would like party until they killed themselves. Like literally like rock stars that would like overdose and die because they partied too hard. And I'd be like writing that. I'd be like, these were my idols when I was 15 years old. So I had kind of like a warped perception of wanting to be like this rock star because I loved playing guitar and I was obsessed with rock music and classic rock and AC/DC, Motley Crue, Def Leppard. I just like idolized that shit so much, and it was just kind of ironic and kind of a funny coincidence how like as things kind of picked up for me and I started working with certain people that kind of fulfilled that role in a different way, but not necessarily in a rock band, but kind of fulfilled that lifestyle for a while and. That was kind of like the very beginning of it. And then as I got older, I don't know. I don't really know who like obviously like early producers that I really loved were like obviously Pharrell and Timbaland like that. They were the two biggest producers as I was coming up. And I really like drew a lot of inspiration from them. The first rap music I ever listened to was pretty late. I was like probably like 18 or 19 years old. I didn't listen to really rap music before that. And I really got into 50 Cent just because of the area I was from. And then I took a trip out to see my buddy on the West Coast because he went to college out there. And he got me into hyphy music and kind of like Bay Area music. So like my first introduction to like hip hop and rap music was hyphy music and then like New York, like 50 Cent style rap, like Get Rich or Die Trying, that type of stuff. So my inspirations are kind of all over the place, like literally everywhere.
Damn, man.
Cool, very cool.
Yeah. So, as you're going through that journey and like you're growing up and like getting into all of this stuff, what always kept you going? Like knowing that you could do this. Like, how did you push through when there was times where you're like, I don't know if this is gonna work out?
Man, like I said, man, like I got truly blessed for so many different reasons. By the time I was like off on my own, like I was by no means successful, but I like wasn't starting from zero, you know, like there were like 2 or 3 artists I was working with that were like well known enough where I could get people to come in and do studio time for like $25 an hour. I could get people to like pay $100 for a beat. Once I started doing music videos, like in the very, very early days, like I'd get someone to throw me like $300, $400, $500 to shoot a video. Like, and this is the first year I'm out on my own. So I was very blessed to have that kind of groundwork. But like I said, like the family thing is a huge thing too, because I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like there were some months where I was like, I can't fucking pay rent. Like I'm in New York City and like, granted, this was New York City a long time ago, but rent was still rent. And I was, I had roommates and whatever, but there was still some months where I was like, I just can't pay rent or I can't, I'm a few $100 short or whatever. And I would have family to help me out, which I know like, not everyone has that type of support. And I was lucky enough to have that my first year when I was like really trying to make it happen. So it's kind of a mix of all those things. If I didn't have either one of those things, I don't know if I would have pushed through. Maybe I would have caved and got, like a 9 to 5 and done this on the side and maybe would have slipped away. I don't know, but it's kind of a mix of all that.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, we both have, me and him are both very lucky that we have supportive families too.
Yeah.
Who even just support something like this. That's just like, you want to do a podcast about mental health? Like, I love that. If that makes you happy, do that. Like,
Yeah.
and a lot of people don't have that. It's very, and you don't realize, like, you look at people who, if they don't have that like it would be a lot easier to give up.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's important to push through. I mean, I just moved back home with my parents at 30. You know, I was just living in the city, and I just went through a breakup. So now I'm back home, like starting over a little bit.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I know that it's just the way it's gonna be, and like you said, having that background, having people like him helping out, like keeps you grounded, keeps you focused, and that's a really big thing to have when you're going through life. You know.
Hey, I totally understand it. It is a gift, and it's rare to have a family that's loving and supporting. Like it's people who have it. Some people just think that's the way things are, but for a lot of people, that's not how things are. And a lot of people are kind of just left to fend for themselves during hard times. And I mean, luckily, when you are left to fend for yourself and you get through it, you end up becoming really resilient and strong for it. But at the same time, like I would never take it for granted, like, you know, having great friends and great family, because it's a blessing.
I think it's a huge blessing too, because then like the support we've gotten from our families thus allows us to support our friends and other people and try to give that gift, especially if somebody else doesn't have that. You never know like what those simple words of encouragement can, like it can change somebody's life. You never know.
Yeah.
It might just be a regular day for you, but saying something like "You can do this, man. You got this" is can change somebody's life.
Yeah, no, I truly believe that. That's why I mean, I've really found a lot of purpose when we started podcasting with Mike and the Y&K podcast. I mean, I started finding so much purpose in what I was doing, because leading up to the podcast, like 2019 is when we started it. But like the few years before that, and I spoke on this before on our show, but I didn't have a lot going on for like 2 years, you know, like I was just so used to, when I was working with Mike, there was like 5 to 6 years where things were just constantly going up. Things were constantly getting busier. The business was constantly getting bigger. And then there was just like 2 years where like things didn't fall off, but like just a lot of things were happening on the back end where like Mike was rebranding. We weren't really touring. He was creating like a new sound. The podcast didn't exist yet, and we weren't shooting music videos. And I was kind of like sitting on my ass where I was like, fuck, I literally don't know why I'm waking up in the morning, because I don't know what my purpose is anymore. And when we started the Y&K podcast, like kind of what you were saying, to see that it affected so many people in a positive way, and that just having simple discussions that Mike and I are having, just kind of discussing our own lives and, you know, stuff we're going through could help other people. That was like such a kind of life-saving in a way for me. Like it gave me a huge sense of purpose, and it made me believe that like, wow, like just having like positive discussions can like really help people, and giving like positive affirmations to people can like really help them. So that was huge for me.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm one of the listeners to that. That is really one of the things that sparked this for us. The episode that you guys did with Max Homa, listening to some of the things that he was saying, as when you listen to an athlete and then like an artist like Mike talk openly about vulnerable things like that, it really makes you think and like look at your own life. And for me, I was like, I've always worked in restaurants. I started working in restaurants when I was a kid. So like the lifestyle there, as you get into it, is kind of, there's a lot that goes on. There's a lot of drugs and alcohol that go on behind the scenes, especially late at night. And I bartended for a long time, so that became something that like I just thought was normal in life. You know, like I'm gonna bartend, and then at like 10 o'clock I'm gonna go rail a line, and like we're gonna get the night going. You know,
And it's also like it's when you're the bartender, it's so easy to get access to that stuff. It's not like you got to pay for it all the time. Like it comes very easily from people, because everybody wants to be your friend. And yeah, like maybe I saved a little money along the way, but then also like that can be dangerous, because you just get into a cycle of it's kind of always there. It's always available, and then it just becomes a thing.
I couldn't relate to that more. I don't know how long you guys have been fans for or been following for, but I mean, there was, up until 2 years ago, I mean, our life was very substance heavy. You know, we drank a lot, we partied a lot. And on top of that, for a long time, we were celebrated for doing those things, you know? And it's when you have like a whole mass of people kind of like cheering you on as you destroy yourself and party and, you know, like, literally cheering you on for doing those things. You start to like really get messed up in the head thinking like, yeah, like, like this is rock star shit. Like, like we're killing it. And really we're just killing ourselves. And, it was like literally 10 years of that. It was just 10 years of just destroying our bodies. And, again, a lot of fond memories during that time, but you look back and you're like, we kind of had a warped perception of reality. It's, we'd go city to city. I'd tell people stories about like what we would do on stage. And I don't know if you guys have been to shows before, or have been to ones in the past, but I mean, there were times when, we would play a song on stage for like 3 minutes and pass a Ciroc bottle around, like a 750 milliliter. And between like 4 or 5 of us, we would just like chug and finish a Ciroc bottle in 3 minutes. And like, there's a crowd out there.
That's impressive.
Crowds out there cheering. They're like, yeah. And like, we're like, yeah, we're dope. And it's like, no, we're not dope. You look back and it's like, you kind of grimace. You're like, oh, like I can't, like, what were we doing?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was kind of a lot to go through to like look back and be like, well, that obviously those were fun times and, a lot of great memories, but we were kind of just like having this warped view of reality where we were just kind of punishing our bodies and not treating ourselves right. And I'm happy that we're kind of on the other side of that. And I'm not gonna lie, there's still like that little dog inside of me when I'm around it. It's like I get the itch and I'm like, oh, like it's kind of like you go to war and you have the PTSD. Like when I'm around partying still, like I kind of have that, and it's hard to like not fall right back into it again. It's but yeah, it's just I don't know your experience, but it's been an ongoing challenge to like continue to create those boundaries for myself.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely experienced it on like a small scale. Like I can't even imagine what it's like when there's thousands of people who are like, that's who you are. So like every day, like you're in a different city and you got to put up that this is my identity. I party, I drink, I do this.
That's exactly, like you just said it exactly right. This is my identity. Like we wrapped our identity in like this whole party culture. And it got to the point where like we even had a TV show, 2016. Like we got a television show made about us going on the road and partying. Like it was about more than that. But like on the surface, a lot of it was just like us going to different cities and partying and drinking and this and that. And then it was televised and then it was on TV and on national television. So very much so like identity got wrapped up in that. And then it was a whole transformation process over the last few years where it's like, I'm living out this fantasy of what I wanted for myself when I was 15, and I'm looking at these rock stars and like, going through this same exact experience, maybe a little more extreme because they were actually killing themselves and doing drugs, but going through this same experience, and I'm like living this life where I'm living for like this 15-year-old dream I had rather than like being the man I am today. So that was like a huge transformation over the past few years of like kind of realizing that and then trying to put it into practice, which is still an ongoing obstacle.
Yeah, I mean, like that's for me. Like I always wanted to be the best bartender, and I always tried and like you can get awards for it, and like that lifestyle was something that I chased after, and I ended up, I'm very fortunate. I'm good at that job, like I've done a lot in that career, in that field. In 2020, I won best bartender in the Hudson Valley from like a prestigious magazine around
Let's
here.
go.
But that was kind of like the spiral there, cause you hit that goal and you're just like, it just all became, all right, I know that I can do this and I'm good at it. So I just kept doing the same thing every day. And like, after a while you sit around and look and you're like, what am I doing this for? Like, why am I still, I'm not pursuing anything else. I'm just living this same day to day, like partying every night and drinking and doing drugs and like waking up in the morning and you start to be miserable when you wake up and you're like, why is this happening?
Yeah. Yep.
And I think listening to you guys talk about your experiences with it is something that really helped me look around and be like, other people that have done this have come out of it and changed. So what steps do I need to start taking to make those changes myself? And I started with meditation, just listening to you guys talk about and journaling. Those were 2 big ones for me because you kind of get back to yourself a little bit and you're writing down things and you're like, where is this coming from? Like, these thoughts that I'm having about like, is this what I really want? And you start looking for perspective, and I took a step back. I'm 286 days sober now.
Wow.
So
you went full on cold turkey, nothing.
Yeah, there was when I started listening to you guys March 26th of 2022. And for about 4 months, I meditated and journaled and worked out every day, but at the end of the day, I would go to work
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
just right back into the cycle.
Yep.
And then in like late March, or so I started in October. In late March, I was just like, I stopped drinking. I came home one night and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I hopped on Xbox and I was doing lines just downstairs, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing right now? And I threw that shit in the toilet, and I never went back. And
Wow.
listening to the stuff that you and Mike talk about is inspiring, man. It really is. And like that helped me push through. Thank God that I started listening to you guys a little bit later, because there was episodes built up for me to go back and listen to. I know you guys are busy, so it doesn't come out as often anymore, but I had like 50, 60 episodes, and like listening to the guys that you interviewed and talked to about those things, like very inspiring, man. It helped me out a lot.
That's amazing to hear, and congratulations on the sobriety, by the way, because
Thanks.
I know that takes a lot, and for me, what I've realized is it starts to become very like alienating, and like you feel lonely sometimes because, I mean, I just speaking from my experience, even out here, like a lot of my friends are kind of younger. I'm 35. A lot of my friends are younger, and that, not that they party all the time, but like they'll go out on the weekends and this and that, and it's hard to like it feels alienating to like stay in on a Friday night, stay in on a Saturday night, and like hang out with yourself and watch a TV show, or like do a fucking puzzle or something, and just try to stay out of trouble. And it's like, it's at that age, it's especially if I have younger friends, it's like, it's hard to find people who are like-minded enough to be like, you know what, like maybe let's not black out till 3 a.m. and let's just like chill and do something else. Amongst young people, it's hard to find that, and it can become very like lonely and alienating, especially with me now. Like I moved to Nashville a year and a half ago, and I moved here by myself. So like I live alone. So like when you live alone, you don't have roommates. You're trying to stay out of trouble. You're trying to do what's best for you. And like a lot of your peers and people around you, especially working in the music industry, are like out there doing the party stuff. It can become really hard, and that's been a huge challenge for me, like really hard challenge.
So you want to talk about that a little bit, because you lived with Mike and everybody for a very long time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And then you moved to Nashville by yourself. So like, what has that transition been like for you? Because you were with your boys every day, like always together, and now you're Kilmer by yourself. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah.
what was that like at first?
I think that's my new.
'Cause it had to be challenging.
That's my new tag, Kilmer by himself. I'm no longer Kilmer the filmer. I'm Kilmer by himself. Oh God. I mean, going back to identity, man. I mean, you talk about things that you wrap your identity in, and a lot of people wrap their identity in like what they do, their profession. I mean, I was literally called Kilmer the filmer for a decade, even now, and it's like, my identity got wrapped up in what I did and who I associated with and who I worked with, and who I spent time with, like, and living with Mike and the guys, that was a 7-year journey. Living in LA for 5 years, and then living kind of remotely during COVID and bouncing around for 2 years. My identity very much got wrapped up in, that, being, and it still is, it's not like we very much still all work together, and business is growing exponentially. And, it's myself is still very much like in it. But you have to think like your identity. It's like my identity was wrapped up in living with my friends for 7 years and this is as an adult out of college. And then when you take yourself away from that, and you're by yourself, and you're living in this house in a different city, and you separate yourself from it, you start to have an identity crisis. I did, for sure. I had a huge identity crisis, and figuring out like who I am outside of all that, I never really like had the opportunity to even think about it, because I never had been on my own and separated myself from it. So that's been an ongoing thing, like a super ongoing thing. And, going back to like the trying to party less thing, and figure out like who I am and what my values are and what I enjoy and what gives me fulfillment. I figured out a lot of those things because I've been forced to, because I've never actually taken the time to be alone and figure it out up until a year and a half ago when I moved here. So then I started to like really reflect on, what brings me joy and why I like to wake up in the morning and what gives me purpose. And, it was no surprise. It was just the things that I was already doing, working with musicians and being of service to people and using my creative gifts to help other people, and doing things like podcasting and having meaningful conversations that inspire other people. So I don't know if I would have been able to do that if I didn't go off and live on my own, because it's hard when you're constantly surrounded by people. It's hard to figure out who you are. It's damn near impossible, and I didn't really do that until I moved here. So, definitely a blessing, but it's one of the bigger obstacles I've had to face, and still going through it. Still trying to figure it all out, and we even getting into the whole relationship side of things. Being 35 and not being married, and not having kids, and looking around at my peers my age and seeing, them having that life and me not having that life, that's a whole nother alienating thing. So it's just a lot of it, and a lot trying not to compare yourself to other people, and trying to like just figure out who you are.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, no, I resonated with that very much so. That was, I mean, it's, and one of the things that I think me and you tried to work on and try to figure out was kind of like redefining what was fun and what was cool, because for, I don't know, 8 to 10 years, the only thing that we associated with being cool was partying and drinking and staying up late.
Yeah.
And like at some point, when we started, we both kind of started meditating, journaling, just kind of like discovering things outside of that. And we were so scared in the beginning to like start a podcast and do something like this and kind of like expose ourselves and be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think we started to kind of just redefine that, like, no, the cool thing is to like make people feel less alone, to sit with your feelings, to, like me and him kind of look at this as, and I would assume that you and Mike kind of feel this way about the podcast, is like sometimes like this feels like therapy. Like
it
when
is.
we sit down
Yes.
and we talk about stuff, like,
Yep.
especially after we've had like, sometimes you have like a rough week, or things go wrong, or you go through a breakup, or, life happens, and you look forward to sitting down and being like, wow, once a week, I'm so lucky that for an hour or 2 hours, I get to sit down with my best friend and be like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Like, how are you doing? Like, how are you dealing with it? Like, what's the next step? And it kind of keeps you accountable, but it also is just like a great way to like, I don't ever feel like I have to like be somebody else when I hop on this podcast with you. And I like, it's, and obviously podcasting isn't for everybody, but it's such a blessing to be able to like kind of like discover yourself in real time while other people like kind of see you opening up.
It's life-changing. It really is. And if you look back to episode, I think 3 of the Y&K podcast, we called it the meaning of life, the fucking arrogance that we have. We called it the meaning of life. Because like that was like, I think that 3rd episode was the first time, like, and it was very early on, we sat, and if you like look what we're if you look how we're dressed, we look ridiculous. I think Mike is like shirtless, and he's wearing like this like this big like huge wicker hat.
The sun hat.
And like I think is during COVID, and I have like a mustache or something. And I'm wearing like sunglasses inside. And we named the podcast "The Meaning of Life," the arrogance. But that was like the first time like we're sitting down and we're having like a fucking real ass conversation. It was the first time we've ever done it. And by the end of that conversation, like, I mean, I can't speak for Mike, but like I discovered a lot of things about myself just from that like 1 hour conversation of sitting with him. And that was like the first really meaningful conversation we had. And it was so meaningful to me that I called the episode "The Meaning of Life." And
It's great though.
and that was a very pivotal moment where I was like, wow, like it really is therapy to like sit and like take the mask off. And like this, a lot of people refer to as a mask, like an identity mask, where we had one for so long. Like our identity mask was like, we're going to go out and drink as much as possible and party and hook up with girls and go city to city and like just be complete savages and not give a fuck and do whatever. And that was, I mean, maybe that was who we are, but like to me, I feel like I was putting on a mask, and after a while I was like putting on a mask, and like I felt like I had to be that guy, and I'm sure Mike felt like he had to be that guy. And then like that podcast, episode 3, Y&K podcast, it felt like that mask was just like taken off, and we're just talking about real things and stuff like we're really going through. And it was liberating. It felt really good. And like from that point forth, like we went on to do over 100 episodes more of like having the same type of conversations, and it became more and more liberating each time. And you know, if you look back at the earlier episodes, like there wasn't a complete departure. Like I'm still like, you know, episode 5, 6, 7, I'm talking about, you know, strippers and this and that, and, and like getting cavity searches at the Canadian border, and like, you know, like it's that part of me is still there, but you know, really dropping the guard down and putting the mask down and like just talking about real stuff. So, yeah, huge game changer.
Yeah, I mean, we did our first episode, and it was just like me and him talking in my parents' yard, and like, both of us felt like really strongly that it was a positive conversation, probably one of the most deep conversations that me and him had had. And like at that time, I had just left a job, like that I was a partner at the bar, like I was in charge of everything, like, and I kind of was just like, this doesn't make me happy anymore. I'm just gonna drop it and like see what happens, you know, like it'll work out for me, I hope. You know, like that's the goal. That was the thought process. And then we did our second episode, and man, did we fucking stumble. It's called Eating Humble Pie. Like we were just forcing everything. It felt shitty, and like we kept going after that. And I think that was the real push through for us. Like once we got through that episode changed a lot for us. We went on to do 2 interviews, like one with me and one with him, where we both sat back and we're like, we're gonna let the other person interview each other, and we're gonna get really fucking real and see what happens. And
Yeah.
both of us ended up crying in those episodes, just like because you really open up and you get vulnerable, and it's like it's such a liberating feeling, you know, like. Being able to like sit back and reflect, but like in the present moment, talk through it, and you're listening to yourself and you're like, shit, man, this is how I've been feeling for this long.
Yeah, I was so scared in the beginning, and like thankfully, like you've always been the type of person who didn't have a problem with like putting stuff out there and like doing new things. And for me, it was like such a scary thing putting out this one episode, because like that's all you have. But one of the liberating things that I found about this is that because I struggle with perfectionism all the time and wanting to make every camera angle look good, and the sound perfect. And this was just an amazing opportunity that I realized I was like, no, it doesn't have to be perfect, because next week I get to do it again.
Yeah.
And then next week we're doing 2 episodes, and the next week we have this guest.
Yeah.
And like every time it's just like we learn, you have the opportunity to learn, and you know that something else is lining up with that. And being able to like get in touch with the fact that it doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to have, you know, a million more chances to continue growing and get better at this, because I do all like the sound and the video and all that stuff. And it's a great thing that like we can, I feel like I can just, it doesn't have to be perfect this time, because I'm always going to have another chance to do this and keep going.
Yeah, and what's beautiful too is you gain something from it anyways. You know, like you said, the actual process of sitting down and having these conversations with, you know, one of your best buddies, like that's, you're gaining something from it already, you know? And like that's what I always like. I urge anyone to start a podcast, no matter who you are or what your message is or anything. Like if you're sitting down and having a meaningful conversation with one of your buddies, like for an hour a week, then it's worth it, you know?
Yeah, man,
People-
talk
peop-
about
peop-
something that's not basketball or football.
Exactly.
You know?
Like especially guys, you know, like I feel like guys have a guard up in general, and you know, society has kind of dictated that guys shouldn't be vulnerable and open up. But like, you know, if you can sit down with your buddy and just have like a nice conversation about life once a week, then it's worth it. Like the outcome of whatever that conversation is just a bonus. You know, so like if the podcast gets big and it gets popular, that's a bonus. But the act of doing it once a week that's the process of it.
That's
Is
the real
like that's the gift. That's the reward. It really is.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about you, man.
Yeah.
Let's like get into it. So you have you're a producer, you're a director too. You have your own film.
Yeah.
We looked you up on IMDb.
Yeah.
So The Primrose, what was the inspiration behind that? Like, where did that come from? What was that process like for you?
Yeah. So The Primrose is my first and only so far feature length film, and this was during that time
There'll be more.
when I was telling you guys those 2 years when I had like literally fucking nothing going on, and could struggle to find purpose in what I was doing. That's what sparked me to like wake up one day and just say like, you know what? Like I think it was the fall of 2017. I woke up one day and I was like, I'm just gonna write a fucking movie. I went to college to study film. I had a creative writing minor. I think like in college, like if you'd put music aside, I wanted to write films and make movies. Like that's what I wanted to do. And that's probably one of the most challenging things to do, independently anyways. When you talk about being an independent filmmaker and an independent musician, both very difficult. But when you look at an independent feature length film, that's always been my Everest. That's like completing something like that just seemed like so unobtainable and hard. And I wasn't really thinking about the full thing. And like when I first started writing the film, I wasn't thinking about like, I'm going to write a film and then I'm going to do this and then I'm going to make it. I was just thinking about writing a movie. That's it. So I wrote a movie, first script I ever wrote, first like feature length script I ever wrote. Spent about 2-3 months in the fall of 2017 writing The Primrose. Very heavily influenced by kind of like my life up to that point. Just kind of living in a house full of dudes, male camaraderie, keeping the party going after college, that type of thing. But at like underneath it all, kind of like having a little bit of heart and like really, really thinking about like what one's life purpose is and like what makes you happy and what really matters. So after writing it in the fall, I decided, and I had one of my best friends who a comedian out of New York. He and I decided to partner up and decided to like fund it, like crowdfund it, raise the money. No matter how much we raised, just raise as much money as we could. Do a Kickstarter, reach out to friends and family, and then just make it. So just make it. So I want to say like around February or March or so, we like did the crowdfunding. We raised like 20 to 30 grand. And then we planned it out for like another couple months. And then in June into July of that year, 2018, we actually went out and shot it. 13 shooting days in and around Boston, pulling favors from everywhere, like really stretching the budget. It's really expensive to make a movie. Like if you, like some people will spend 30 grand like for like a scene in a movie, let alone an entire movie. So like, pulled a lot.
Or on a song, like
Yeah,
you have one song in your movie, it'll cost that much.
No, exactly. So like, it was, and not to mention like I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. Like this was one of the first times I just like dove. Like, I just dove in. I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go. A lot of stuff fell into place serendipitously, like that I couldn't have even planned. Like our main location came through like literally 2 days before filming. Like we didn't even have it until all this trouble, months of writing the film, like planning it, raising the money, and like we didn't have our like main location until like a day or two before filming started. So like, and it's something that just like fell in my lap, like insane. Like I think some guys reached out that were like fans of Mike and had known about like me and Mike, and they saw that I was raising money and stuff, and they saw what the movie was about, and they were like, hey, like, I saw what your movie's about. It sounds like our house would be like perfect to shoot at for your movie. And I was like, really? I'm like, can you send me some videos? And they sent me videos of their house. Like, I kind of needed like an Animal House style place that like guys live in. That's like kind of a mess, kind of like shit everywhere, solo cups, like sports stuff, whatever. And like, they show me a video and I was like, oh my God, like this is exactly what I like, no set design needed.
Wow.
Their house was like it. So I was like, can I like, this is going to like sound kind of forward, but like, can I shoot my movie at your house for the next 13 days? Like, and just completely like be as like intrusive as, they were like, yeah, like that'd be so dope. They're like, yeah, for sure. Like, we'll give you a key. You can come in and out whenever you want, like whatever. And I was like, seriously? And like those guys I like, still talk to this day, 'cause like they literally saved my ass on this entire thing. But just a lot of stuff like that kind of fell into place and favors, and like people willing to work for a little money, some actors willing to work for nothing, and just be there for the 2 weeks and do it. And it was like probably one of the coolest things and most challenging things I've ever done. And you can see it today on Amazon Prime. It's called The Primrose. And I can't even watch it because it makes me want to like vomit just from looking at it. Because I'm just too close to it, and I'm like, oh God, like I didn't know how to write a movie. I think the execution of actually like making it, I'm so proud of the crew, the cast, like everyone fucking killed it. To even like complete it and put it out like that, huge. And like we had like an awesome premiere in Boston in front of like 250 people, like sold out theater, like huge. Like so proud of all that. But like like watching this like movie I made like makes me like vomit in my mouth a little bit. and it's inspired me to like really work on another one. And it's, you know, it's been 5 years, which is crazy to think about. But I'm pretty close to like jumping back on the horse again. And it's funny, like writing a movie and creating characters. It's like you really have to like be kind of spiritually tapped in to like create characters and make meaningful scenes. And I didn't know that at the time because like back in 2017, I was not tapped in, and I'm making these scenes that are like so stale and like it's because I wasn't tapped in, and like I didn't really know much about myself yet. And now that I've done a lot of that work over the past few years, now that I'm writing these scenes and writing characters and meaningful relationships and stuff on a screenplay, like it's really coming through the page, and you're like, oh wow, like you kind of have to be tapped in to make stuff like that. And I don't think I was ready to do that yet in 2017, and now I feel like I'm pretty close, and I'm writing scenes that like are moving me, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. So, but yeah, that's it's a short movie. It's like an hour and 17 minutes. Anyone who wants to check it out, I think it's like $1 to rent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you tell us anything about what you have planned next? Like, what are you working on? Like, what projects do you have planned for the future?
Yeah, I have a couple screenplays in the works. I've been working on one the past few years with my same partner, Mark, out of New York, comedian, who like we co-wrote one together. What's like kind of almost finalized. No immediate plans yet of making that. And then I also started working on one in the past month or so on my own. I wanted to kind of make a screenplay, something a little more autobiographical as well, kind of going through a lot of the feelings that we've discussed up until this point on this podcast of me moving here, and kind of set it in Nashville and kind of do like a whole indie film here in Nashville, which I think would be cool because this is a growing city. And like, I love, my favorite part about living here is that it's growing so quickly and it's becoming more than just like a country music town. A lot of creative people are moving here and doing dope shit outside of that. So I think like championing the city and like shooting a movie here and like kind of make it like really resemble what Nashville is now outside of that whole like touristy country Broadway thing, like really showing the city and championing it would be like a really cool thing to do. So like that's in the next like year or so, that's kind of my plan, is to shoot something here. And I kind of already have like this really cool story put together, and I probably have like 15, 20 pages written so far of that. So like I'm pretty excited for that.
Well, it's kind of cool, especially now with, I feel like for a very long time to be able to like make movies like that, you had to be in LA or New York, and that was it. And now like just between technology and people are kind of getting tired of that stuff, it's kind of cool that now there's like these places like Nashville and Austin and places in Arizona where like you can do stuff like that, and that there isn't like this pressure to be like you have to be in the specific place to get something made.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I don't know what's gonna come of it, but like I just think if I make a film here in Nashville and like I get a lot of like my people from this city like involved, and kind of just get a lot of people I know in the music industry, the nightlife industry, like everything, just like kind of involved in the film, and make a lot of people a part of it. I think it's going to be like a very cool like community grassroots thing, which a lot of filmmakers like aren't doing really. They're not like really thinking in that terms, and it's kind of coincides with like how Mike came up as an artist and how we came up. It was like building a grassroots fan base, doing it on the music side of things. I find it very interesting doing that on the film side of things, and like I can't really wrap my head around it yet because it's very different than music, but I kind of want to do something similar.
Nice. So you guys are just with Only Steve's. That's been a big project for you guys for a long time now, and now you're using Grouped. So you want to talk about Grouped a little bit? Like what was the process in getting that going, and like how that's affected you as you're growing, you know, the mindset and ups and downs with that. Obviously you guys have been through a lot this year with that, so that might be a good thing to touch on.
Yeah, let's do it. I mean, like big fucking props to Mike. He's like he always has his ear to the ground, and he always is like coming up with ideas to do things new and innovative and different. And part of him staying independent for so long has kind of like forced him to always adapt and try new things. Whereas if you're a label artist, you're kind of like in the cog and you're in the machine and you're kind of just going with, you're not really forced to adapt and think of new things to be successful. Whereas Mike has, I mean, at this point, Mike has like 5 side businesses outside of music. And he's just like, man, he's he's just such a forward-thinking guy, and I'm very grateful to be on a team with someone and a leader who like thinks that way, because it's very inspiring, and then it gets me excited. So one of the things, and this was like even before Grouped, this was like years ago, Mike came up with the idea to do this subscription-based thing where we would have this community where fans would pay, at the start it was $5 a month, and we'd put out exclusive music, exclusive podcasts, fan experiences, giveaways, financial support giveaways, like give back to the fan base, help any way we can, and like just provide this really cool experience that like most musicians aren't offering their fans, to make it like completely worth it for the fans. And we originally started on another platform. We did it for like 2-3 years. We built it up to like a pretty big business. And then this opportunity came along where we could kind of create our own platform that was kind of more geared just towards creators and musicians for the most part, and podcasting as well. But so we parted ways with the old company. We teamed up with some people and we created Grouped, and we kind of wanted to make it like this like perfect case scenario based on our experience on this other platform and seeing all these other platforms like Patreon, and there are a few others, and just like taking the best of everything of what a musician needs or what a podcaster needs to create these like amazing communities for their fans and put it all into one thing. And that's kind of been a journey of ours for the past, I don't know, probably around 6 months now, 5-6 months now, of like putting Group together, launching it, completely migrating Only Steve's over to that, kind of starting from scratch in a way, and just building this new platform and getting other creators on it as well. And that's been, again, besides the podcast, like another amazing thing, because like when I think of what gives me fulfillment and like what I've been doing all these years, is I've been being of service to musicians and like using my skill set to help musicians in any way they can, whether it be on the creative side of things or even on the like back end, like managerial side of things or whatever. So this platform now is like, I can already see it. I can already see like artists being so psyched about it, like hopping on here and providing this like amazing experience for their fans, and seeing artists now become like very like financially capable at the same time, and like independent, claiming their independence in a way. It's just been so fucking cool to see. It's been really, really cool to see. And taking like what we've learned, like, and what I've learned with Mike and over the past 2-3 years of doing this business model and being able to apply it with other people and help them, that's just been so fulfilling as well.
Yeah, man, that's dope.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome to see like how it can translate from you're kind of trying to build yourself up and you're doing things, and then eventually you want to get to that point where you want to give back to people who like, damn, it would have been great if when I was coming up, if I could get that encouragement, or if I had a different way of, nowadays it's fantastic that we live in a world that not even just music, but really anything that you can access it from anywhere. It doesn't have to be like this thing that you have to know this record label executive or this producer or whoever it is. Like, it's awesome that you can kind of create your own thing and you don't have to be this major world touring artist to profit off of your content and be creative.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm not trying to be a hater, but I mean, record deals have never been favorable to the artist, ever. Ever. It's always been about the major label making as much money and squeezing as much money out of you as possible. And if you're not a top prospect, you get sent down on the bench and you just sit there forever. And it's no wonder that the market share for independent artists has been getting bigger and bigger every year, because not only is it easier for you and more affordable to make your own music and your own videos now, and things like algorithmic platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels, like you can get discovered overnight. You can have a viral video overnight, and it's very cheap to buy studio equipment. And now, like, thinking it from like a business standpoint, being able to create these type of communities where fans can like literally subscribe to you or support you in other ways for a more meaningful, and it's not for everyone. It's literally for your top 2 to 5% of your fans, like literally like your diehard fans. It's for them. It's not for everyone. But for some people, like for some artists, like that's an extra $2-3 grand a month. That's like literally life changing. You can literally quit your second job and focus on your music now because you have 200 or 300 people that are willing to support you and willing to like have that more meaningful experience with you, but at the same time, like let you focus just on music and not have that side job anymore. So that's what excites me the most from it all, is like for those artists that are independent and that can get that extra couple $1,000 a month from fans who like truly fuck with them, and they can like just focus on what they really love to do.
Yeah, man, that's so. We're on our way to try and getting on there and getting it going.
Mm-hmm.
We're still trying to build that main platform or that main group of people following. So we'll see what happens. But so what's the state of John Kilmer at right now? How are you doing mentally? Like what are some things you do every day to like tap into yourself, you know, to get, besides journaling, like even if it is just journaling, things that you do to work on you? Like how are you doing right now?
Yeah, no, it's a roller coaster every day. You know, some days are better than others. Some days are, like I said, like this is the first stint of time when I've like really kind of been on my own, like really, and like it's, you know, the hardest times are like sometimes, like I said, like at night, where like, especially during this time of year where it gets dark at like 4:30 and you're sitting at home alone and like you don't live with the guys anymore and like you're trying not to party so much, you're trying to get your shit together, and like you're just like sitting there at like 5 p.m. and you're like, well, I finished work for the day and not trying to party anymore, and it's dark out now and it's freezing outside and I have nothing to do for the next 5 hours, and I'm really trying not to like slam a bottle of bourbon right now, and you know, you go through those trials and I go through those trials and tribulations where it's hard, but for the most part things are good, and like I'd say like my big anchor has been like kind of like diet and exercise for the most part. Like like huge fan of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, if you didn't know already.
We were waiting for it.
I'm surprised it's taken 53 minutes for me to bring up good old Dwayne. But Dwayne always talks about his anchor. He says like going to the gym is his anchor. It's what keeps him grounded, and it's like what really sets him up for success every day. And I like can't stress that enough. Like for anyone, like it doesn't have to be the gym, but you need that anchor, like that one thing that you just do that grounds you. And it could be meditation, it could be going for walks, it could be anything. But for me, it's just like going to the gym, doing something physical, and like, you know, like just having a good diet and like having a good like input and putting good things into my body. Like that stuff is like my anchor, and that's like stuff that I can control. In a world where like so many things are out of my control, like that's one thing I can control to make myself feel better, and that's been kind of like what I've really like leaned on for my anchor. So, and I got to say, like, Zac Efron's slowly creeping on Dwayne Johnson. I don't know if you saw Iron Claw.
No, we're interested in seeing it though. My brother saw it and he said it was fantastic.
Yeah, it's very sad movie. You're gonna cry. You're gonna cry by the end for sure. But man, Zac Efron, like just absolute brolic, shredded diesel in that movie.
Yeah. And crop top season's right around the corner, man.
Yeah, man. So, but yeah, fitness has been a huge thing for me. And then like, obviously, anytime I get to do things like this podcast or, it's crazy too. Like just yesterday, like I had an artist, over yesterday, and like I was teaching them. She was very interested in like learning how to record herself, because I was like, that was really big for Mike. It's like a couple of years ago when he learned how to set up a studio in his bedroom and like record himself instead of having to rely on going to a studio and record with engineers and all this. That was like game changer for him. His whole creative process, his music, it just changed completely, like exponentially better. And this girl came over yesterday and like she wanted to learn how to record herself, and like I kind of set up stuff on her computer and stuff like that. And like even just like an hour of sitting down with an artist and like teaching them how to be self-sufficient, which I know would in turn like change their whole creative craft going forward forever, by just sitting down for an hour and like helping them to like record themselves and showing them how to set up a session and showing them like what plugins to use and how like this and that. Like that is like literally like why I wake up in the morning. Like that is the best, like that is it for me. Like 1 hour, like being able for me to spend 1 hour with someone and like having them change their whole like creative outlook on what they do, like that, like I'm literally like I don't know if you can see it on my arms. My hairs are standing up on my arms right now. I'm getting goosebumps. Like that's it for me. Like that's it. Like there's nothing better than that. Like there's literally nothing better than that. So that's another huge thing for me where it's like not even thinking about what can I gain from this. This is another thing why I love living in Nashville, because like when I lived in LA, like the music industry was not like this. It was not like let's help each other and like I'm gonna help you for no other reason than just to help you because it's the right thing to do and it'll make your life better. Music industry in LA didn't work that way. And then being in Nashville, it's like a much friendlier place, and it's about like I'll help you, you like you'll help me. Like it's just a very friendlier vibe, and like I feel like I've gained a lot from just being a nice person here and like doing the right thing and helping people for the sake of helping them. So that's been very refreshing. But I'm not helping people to get ahead. I genuinely like feel so fucking fulfilled being able to like just use what I know to help people like in a really, really big way. And for me, it's been, for me, it's been musicians. Like that's kind of been the constant, like since I started working with Webby in 2008. So I don't know how many years is that. I don't want to count. It'll make me depressed.
Going on almost 16.
yeah. 15, 16
15,
years.
16 years, like a constant of just like helping artists any way I can. And it's crazy that it's been 16 years. And like when I first started out, like, yeah, I was helping, but I was brand new and like my craft was very new. And like, yes, I was helping, but I wasn't very experienced yet. And now having 15 years under the belt, being able to sit with someone for an hour and like really being able to help them, that is so fucking dope to me. Like that's so cool. Like that means like literally the fucking world to me. And that's another thing that another show that I've started or that I've been blessed to hop on is like the Independent podcast with the artist Nick D, which is just like an educational podcast to help young independent artists. Like being able to sit on that show and just like talk about like ways to become a successful independent artist, like that's fucking awesome. Like I know that's going to help so many people, and like I'm not trying to say like I'm like this I don't know, like know all of everything, like everything I say is right. I'm sure
Rick Rubin.
Yeah, I'm not some prophet or anything, but like 15 years experience, like I know enough to like help people, like it's going to be a little bit of value, if not like a good amount of value to these artists that are just starting out, that are like 2, 3, 4 years into it. So just like stuff like that, like that's just been like a huge thing for me to like get through the day that like makes me feel really, really good.
That's dope, man. We feel
it's
the
amazing.
same way. Like this is podcast. Like we like to talk about mental health and be open about it. This way, maybe somebody listening will have that conversation with somebody close to them, like one of their friends, and really open up. Because that's the goal for us. Is just like if we help one person with every episode, if somebody finds something valuable in this, like we found something valuable in you and Mike's podcast, like that's real fulfillment. Like that's where you can get real satisfaction from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally agree.
One of the things that we always talk about, which was a huge factor in when we decided to do this podcast, was kind of like the difference between like trying to do something versus like actually doing it. So for whether you're a musician or you're a filmmaker or whatever creative pursuit or whatever it is, you're starting a business, like what would you say like is the best advice that you can give somebody when they're nervous about what people will think, they don't know about the judgment, maybe they don't know what they're doing? Like what would be your advice to somebody who's trying to take that leap of, no, I'm going to do this. There's no more discussing this in my bedroom. Like what's the step that you can take? What can you do like action wise? Like what would you say to that person?
Yeah, this is like, it's a day and age where like everyone just feels so judged. Everyone's walking on eggshells, and there's so much room for judgment with social media and criticism, and some people can handle it a lot better than others, and it can be so bad that it will stop someone from literally sharing their ideas and their craft and what they want to do, it's a bummer, like I can't sit here and just say like it's as easy as saying like, oh no, just don't care what other people think, just do your thing. Like it's harder than that. It really is. And it's, man, like getting confidence is like, it's not easy. And I can't really give you the answer to be confident enough to like go out there and like take the leap. That's something you have to do yourself. And like, there's really no answer to it. But if you do get over that hump and that hurdle, and you do decide to dive in, and you do decide to have the courage to put your art into the world, and you get to that point, then man, all I preach is to just to really love the process of what you're doing. You know, it's a lot of people, especially today, again, like people get really, really wrapped up in the outcome and the results. And like you were saying, like being a perfectionist and like wanting to make it perfect right from the beginning. And again, I think a lot of people want it that way because they're afraid of the criticism and being judged, even though, like this is literally the first step I'm taking. It's not going to be perfect, but for a lot of people, they feel like it has to be. And I've fallen victim to that so many fucking times, even today, like, today, to this day, I still do it. But it's getting over that hump as well. So first, it's like finding the courage to do it and putting yourself out there. Secondly, it's knowing that it's not going to be perfect from the beginning, and it's going to be, the 10,000 hour rule of putting literally 10,000 hours into this one thing and creating that contract with yourself and the accountability of saying, I'm going to do this because it makes me happy. I don't care where it leads. I'm just going to love the process of doing it, and I'm not going to stop doing it because it makes me feel good. You have to make that contract with yourself. You have to, and it's okay. Like, and if 3 years, if 3 years pass and you're not having fun doing it anymore and you want to try something else, that's cool too. Like, that's totally cool too.
Yeah.
I've been there plenty of times too, where it's like, you have to reassess and think like, maybe I'm not passionate about this anymore. So you don't have to have the resilience to the point where it makes you miserable because you don't love what you do anymore. But if you love what you do and you're happy doing it, then my only advice is to just keep doing it and like fuck the results. Like, even if 10 years go by and you're like, I can't make a living off this yet, but you enjoy doing it, just keep fucking doing it.
Yeah, man.
Just keep, like,
enjoying that process. Yeah.
And like, there's so many stories of like, I mean, I think I saw an interview with Seth Rogen. He's like literally the only variable for the people that like really make it and the people that don't make it is the people that kept going. That's it. That's it. Like, that's literally the answer. And it's so simple and it's so fucking stupid. It's not stupid. It's like, it's real, but like, it's so simple. Like, you literally just keep doing it. And then eventually, like, something will happen. You'll get really, really good at it. Your break will come and you'll succeed at it. And
yeah, man,
we don't know how big that success will be, but the only difference is you kept going and you kept doing it. That's it.
Yeah. The only way you know that you'll fail is if you stop doing it and if you stop pursuing it. Like, I think we talked about that like 2 episodes ago, that exact clip. We were talking about how just like the only measure of how you know that it won't work out is if you stop.
Yeah. You just can't stop. And like, and again, some people's journeys are faster than others. And we're also in an age where people compare themselves to other people. Like, that's another crutch of social media, which really sucks, because some people will have overnight success and you'll compare yourself to them and you'll be like, man, like they popped off and they're only 20 years old and like they've only been doing this for a year and like they're already doing shows and selling all this stuff and touring the country and getting all these streams. But like, that's like winning the lottery. That's like looking at someone who won the lottery and being jealous of them and being like, man, they won the lottery. Like, I suck. Like, I can't win the lottery. Like, that must mean like I'm not successful, so like I'm not smart enough, so I shouldn't even work. I shouldn't even go to work anymore because I can't win the lottery and be rich. Like, it's crazy to think that way. It's insane. That's like, but that's all some people think, like, especially artists, like they compare themselves to these other people that just blow up overnight. And like, that's rare. Like, it's rare to just blow up overnight. Like, it's literally the same odds as winning the lottery. So like, man, and yeah, another piece of advice is just don't compare yourself to shit you see on social media. Like, just never do that. Like, every race is just it's your journey. Like, it's literally your path. It's your journey, and your path might take 10 years. It might not take 1 year, but if you love what you do and you love the process, then just keep doing it.
Yeah. Well, we love doing this, man. I don't know. We don't want to take up too much of your time.
No,
we know you're a busy
not
guy.
Not at all.
Is there anything that you want to promote, man? Anything you want to talk about before we hop off?
Jeez. Yeah, no, I don't think I have anything. Well, I will say one thing happened a couple of days ago, which made me a little teary-eyed, is Mike got booked for Bonnaroo, which is like
I saw that.
Oh, yeah. We did see that. Yeah.
Bonnaroo is like a major festival, and like that's probably the most major festival he's ever gotten booked for. And a lot of people, like, I mean, I'm sure some people think like, oh, Mike's, a big enough artist, like it's not that crazy. But to be an independent artist and to like get that look and be on a festival like Bonnaroo as an indie artist, it's like, man, it's kind of crazy. And it's like really, it's a long time coming. It should have happened a long time ago, just based on his success and what he's able to do and the amount of fans that he has and how successful he is touring. But independent artists don't get looks like that. And like, that's just another wink from the universe being like, he's on the right path. We're all on the right path. We're doing the right thing. And man, we take it from someone who like, we've been on this journey for going on 13 years now, you know? And I hopped on, you know, literally year one with him, and we've been doing it for 13 years. And these are just little winks to just say, you know, keep going, keep doing it. You know, don't stop, don't stop. And it's been a lot, like 13 years. That's crazy. Like doing something for 13 years and not stopping. Like, Mike has literally immersed himself in this career, like completely immersed himself for 13 years, and he's still rising and still getting better. His craft is still getting better, and like these new accolades keep happening, and it's been 13 years, you know? So it's like, that just goes to show, like you have to keep doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's one of the things that as you get older, it stops becoming just about what you're doing, and you can like really truly like be happy and see like the success for your friends and be like, dude, I'm so happy for you. Like to get to that point, like I'm sure that like wherever you started at like the 13 years ago with him, like to see him now being booked on arguably like one of the biggest festivals in the world is got to be unbelievable feeling as one of his close friends.
Yeah, no, it's, man, the life of an independent artist is it's just such a hard obstacle, and like it's so hard to, just in so many ways. Like I could talk about it for another hour, but it's, you know, knowing like all the stuff that he's had to go through and that we as a team have had to go through to like just continue this thing and keep it going. You know, it's like, it's hard, man. It's really hard. And it's hard to be like really taken seriously in the music industry as an indie artist. Just because like the labels, like they just run so much shit. They run so much stuff, more than you'd ever know. And again, little things like this, I mean, it's not little, it's big, but like getting on a major festival, like just from his own fucking merit, and like something that he built on his own, and like no major label help, no one paid his way to get on there. No one's like spending any marketing dollars to get him on it. Like he just did it on his own merit. And it's like, it's just so fucking dope to see. It's like, it's really, really
Wait till they hear the lows, man.
Yeah. Congratulations, man. Congratulations to him and to you. Like you were I'm sure you were a big part of that journey with him. Like, you know, he's there for a reason.
Yeah, no, I like to think so. And like, you know, it doesn't even matter what percentage or what part. It's just, it's been humbling to just be on the ride, and I'm grateful that I've gotten to do it with people that are like the closest people to me in my life. Like him and a few of the other guys, like I've spent more time with them than my own family in the past 13 years. And there's something to be said for that. And it's just kind of it's a beautiful thing to just kind of all win together and to see him succeeding at the level he's succeeding at. So it's really cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think,
Thank
thank you so much for
this
for
has
doing
been
this,
huge
man.
for
Like
us.
we appreciate you taking the time.
Of course, man, dude.
The fact that you agreed to do this so long ago, man, it means the world to us. And we really kept pushing just to get to this episode with you, man. And we got a lot more planned, a lot more that we want to do. And it's inspiring what you guys do, and it's inspired us to keep going. And you never know, man. You never know.
Yeah.
You really never know. You guys keep doing this, because like you're doing a great job. And honestly, I'll hop on anytime. So I appreciate you for asking me to come on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we hope to one day. I don't think it's so far fetched to say like we'd like to do an episode like this in person one day.
Yeah,
I think that's a good thing to look forward to.
Yeah, if I'm ever in the area, 100%, totally.
Awesome,
All right, man.
All right, man. We appreciate you again. Thank you so much for taking the time, brother. Best of luck in the year and with your new movie. And I think only good things are coming.
Thank you, man. Yeah, appreciate you guys.